Office. Well, let's get more reaction now and speak to Bruen. He's Chief Executive of Global Situation Room and a former Global Engagement Director at the White House under President Obama. Brett, good morning to you. Very early in the morning for you, so thanks very much for joining us. What does Donald Trump do during the next 4 years, do you think?
Well, I think he is going to take his show on the road. And for viewers in the United Kingdom, elsewhere around the world, this may be coming to a theater near you. From conversations I've had with those close to Trump, he's already very advanced in plans to work both simultaneously on his business side as well as on the political side. And in many ways, the two conflate. He is going to work with populist politicians around the world while at the same time trying to curry favor with leaders who think perhaps he's going to be president once again. So, Trump doesn't have any ethical qualms about mixing that business and political pursuit. So we're in for, unfortunately, I think, a very rocky next couple of years with Trump playing the agitator-in-chief.
Of course, his business is drowning in debt right now, Brett. Is that potentially going to take his eye off the ball in terms of his political campaigning?
Well, don't forget that Donald Trump, just in the last couple of months since the November elections, has been able to raise $250 million for his campaign. Now, that isn't money he can transfer over to his personal accounts according to U.S. law, but it shows the power of what he is able to generate from his base. And I think, once he leaves office, he will have a freer hand to work on, franchising all sorts of, his own products. And this is something, obviously, he knows how to do quite well. So I would expect Donald Trump to try to cash in as much as he can on his political movement.
How much has the violence last night done in terms of damage to Trump's brand?
It's interesting. I think it's both the violence that we witnessed here in Washington yesterday, as well as the results of the runoff elections in the state of Georgia, where Republicans are realizing that, Trump's power isn't what it used to be when it comes to persuading voters. So I think many are going to quite quickly look to separate, both in the next couple of days as well as in the next couple of years, from Trump's movement trying to reestablish the Republican Party as it once was.
That's a really good point. You think mainstream Republicanism can really reassert itself?
I think there's going to be a concerted effort to, and I have to say, the poor performance in Georgia, losing 2 seats in a state that was reliably Republican, does bode poorly for Trump's efforts to portray himself as still relevant. And I have a piece coming out today in Business Insider where I say, Republican leaders need to very conspicuously and concertedly work to make Trump irrelevant, because that is ultimately, I think, what is going to diffuse the danger to our democracy. The more that we give oxygen to him, the more dangerous he becomes.
Sure, but is it going to be possible for Republicans to win in 2024 without that element of the base that Trump so energized?
Well, it's interesting. Before we get to 2024, we got to get through 2022, which are our legislative elections, and many of those in Congress are going to have to justify their performance and quite frankly, some of their votes from the early hours of this morning. I think it's going to be tough for those that are aligned with Trumpism to say, we can, in fact, deliver on the broken promises that Trump made, because with some distance, I think Trump's performance is going to look much less attractive, including to Republican voters. So I think they're going to try to separate themselves in the coming years from Trump and to define themselves around issues that are going to attract the suburbs that they lost in November, those centrist voters that they so desperately need to win back.
All right, Brett, really appreciate you joining me this early in the morning. Thank you.
You bet.